What's up, everybody? This is Alex with WMD back at you again. And this time, we're going to be talking about live performance and set preparation, or preparation for the live set in Eurorack and using Eurorack only. So this is my personal rig. I've got a 12U system here. And I just kind of wanted to go through and show you guys what I've been doing and kind of like my patch that I've got set up, and tell you a little bit about what I was thinking about going into this. It's not going to be a patch from scratch video because I do have another performance coming up later this week. But in the past 4 days, I've played 3 shows, and I've used this rig for all of them, and each show was like completely different. So the first one was at a music festival where I was playing alongside a bunch of DJs, and there was enough room next to the CDJs for me to put this rack. I had intended on this being a hybrid setup, so I patched this all ready to go. You can see I have the Expert Sleepers ES8 over here. I actually ended up not using that because there wasn't room for my Microsoft Surface, so I just kind of adapted, and then I really enjoyed myself. I had a great time. I played some Eurorack. I spun some stuff on CDJs. I played for about an hour and a half, and I had a really good time just improvising on the Eurorack alongside playing some of my favorite tracks. And then the next night, I just DJ'd and, just had fun and did whatever. And I guess I didn't actually use this rig for that, so sorry. And yesterday, Monday, was Freak Boutique. I played for about 25 minutes. On this system, and I elaborated it a little bit, and then this Thursday is coming up is our party called Patched Out, which is also in Denver, Colorado, and I decided that I was just going to use the same patch, and I'm really, really stoked on this thing, so I'm just going to bring up what I've got going on right now, and then kind of explain to you where the voices are, what's happening, and then where I can go from here. So keep in mind, this obviously isn't like the intro track. For that, I might just run a line out of the Architect into my delay or something like that, just to warm everybody's ears up before just banging down the house with the drum beats. But we're just going to bang down the house with the drum beats. So here we go. Oh, that's really loud. So now I can change up these chords a little bit. Go back to this guy. So I've got this bass line going. Got some samples coming off the assimilator. And so, yeah, for this section of the patch, I've got Metron as the heart. I've got 2 Volteras here, so I can't wait for these to be out. Volteras are in charge of the chords, so these guys, these guys, they're running through an MMF and an ADSR VCA. And this is the Chainsaw by Acid Rain Technologies. And in some of the other parts that I have saved on Metron, I can actually change the chords and whatnot. But I can do that on the fly with Voltera. I can do a lot of things, so it's a lot of fun there. So kick drum is Crater. And basically, I go through, and this is the first thing I bring in the room, and I listen to what this is going to sound like, and I adjust my click level and my body to just make sure that my kick is sounding how I want it to sound, nice and punchy. And then I just use fracture for my 2 and 4 claps. That's just kind of my thing. That's what I really like. And then channel 3 on my mixer, I've got Chimera on the top, so the A. And then if I flip the switch, I've just got some hi-hats coming from the assimilator now. And so if I put those together, you can hear both of them. It's really nice to mix assimilator samples with things, because if you need to change the volume, you can just go out of a individual out here and then just change the volume on the sampler itself. The next thing I've got going on is a bassline, and this is one thing that's really exciting about my patch, right? So I love basslines. This is a nice bubbly one. And this is the spectrum running through the pole 0, running into an ADSR VCA, and then into the mixer. I have a second ADSR VCA with the same gate, so that way I've got one envelope for my filter and one envelope for my amplitude. Cool thing about the spectrum over here is that I've got it set up in the with the blender here, so I can switch between the sub octave and the normal octave, or mix the two. And then I can add in a little bit of this second oscillator here. So you get a nice thick sound there. And then on the auxiliary send of my mixer, I've got a chronoblob delay, which is being clocked at 16th notes. And then I've got it on this divide by 3 setting, so it's kind of a dotted quarter note sound. So if I bring that up here, you gotta hear it just add a little bit of stuff in the background. And then one trick that I love is I gotta take my hi-hats here, right? And these are my hi-hats on the upbeat. And I'm just gonna throw those through the delay. And because it's on that dotted quarter note, it kind of gives me 16th notes in the background. So it's a cool way to get this kind of weird, ghostly 16th note pattern in the background. So then there's that whole line, right? In Metron, how I have all this set up is I've got channel 1 is my kick, channel 2 is my clap, and then channel 3 is my Chimera with the accent, right? So if I bring in the Chimera here and put it in the shaker mode, I'll just make this pattern real short just for demonstration's sake. You can see I can change around the accent with this guy. So that sounds pretty cool. And then channel 5, that's just my hi-hat sample. And then I've got a simulator set up. Just at all times, I've got 4 total channels coming out of my Metron. So this entire section, channels 5 through 8, I've got those controlling samples on the assimilator. So only one output of assimilator is going individually, and that's just the hi-hat. So that way I can put that on its channel and mute it individually, and not really have to do trigger mutes when I want to do fader mutes, because I love playing with the faders. And then the stereo outputs are going through another overseer and then into their own channel. So right now I've got these vocal samples on here, and those have got delay from the chronoblob as well on the aux send. And then I've got this cool effect sound, and I've got some chords. So if I go to the sequence that has that information, which actually was this one, it just needs to be 8 bars long. You can hear that nice and smooth there. And then that's going through this filter, so I can affect that, and then here's those chords. And then that crash kind of beginning thing. So this is what I've got going on. As far as the sequencing of the vocals, I'm just sequencing start point with René and the Cartesian output of René. So that's basically just, for me, more of kind of a random way of just getting it to jump around, and I just move the knobs until it sounds good. Okay, so that's basically the patch as to where we're at right now. And I am looking forward to my next show, and it's supposed to be at least an hour. So I'm supposed to play for an hour. And I don't really want to just play this thing the whole time through, right? So I've been coming up with a couple different ways of just kind of making different variations on the fly and getting different sounds. So one of those things is I've got a Synchrodyne with the Synchrodyne Expand, and I know I owe you guys a video on this. I'm going to do it very, very soon. But I've just got that going into channel 10 here on the mixer. And then this is being sequenced by René's CV output number 1. And the cool thing about Synchrodyne is that I've got... it changes a lot with the releases, like the release time, the envelope time. And you can make it sound real growly just by turning that filter down a little bit. And I'm in bandpass mode right now. There's high pass. And if I go into low pass, we've got a bass line. Well, I guess almost. We're not quite there. But one of the reasons why I'm okay with that is I've got this up here, which is a switch. And so this is a new prototype from WMD that we're working on, and we'll be releasing this very, very soon. And it's just a 3-channel switch. So each switch is normal to each other. So right now, I've got René always controlling Synchrodyne, and then this bass line, this is a bass synth over here. This is being sequenced by Volteras and Metron in conjunction from each other, right? But with a flip of a switch, it's now being controlled by René. So when I mix that with this Synchrodyne, turn it down a little bit. Didn't know where 1 was, but still sounds pretty all right. So one way I like to introduce this kind of thing is if I'm playing over here, right? We're jamming for a little while, and I want to make this transition. So I'll think like a DJ. I'll put a little bit of reverb on here. And then I'm going to take out the kick, take out the bass line, and introduce the Synchrodyne line. Right? That kind of signals that my track's changing. I might change up my Chimera sound a little bit. And then change up my claps. And we get a little bit more. There we go. Something like that. And then maybe I'll bring up my bass line. I'm going to bring it up 2 octaves first when I introduce it. And I got to flip that switch, so now it's being sequenced by the René. And then bring it back down. And now I'm in a completely different zone. So one thing I can do while we're playing all of this is go write a new line for my Voltera line to play. So I'm going to go through here, and it's channel 13. So I'm going to go through here and just make my new pattern, and I'm going to make it 1 bar long just so it's easy. And then I'm going to go through here and change up the notes. And then when I'm ready, I can play that pattern. And we're still listening to Spectrum being sequenced by René, right? So now I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to take out that line. Maybe mess around with Synchrodyne a little bit. Switch my bass line over to be controlled by Voltera now. Then maybe I'll turn on some delay here. Then let that roll. So I just wrote that new bass line on the fly, was able to just keep going. So now we're rolling. This is my new song, right? And then of course I've got the overseer on the master, so I can just give your ears a break by taking out some frequencies and going into radio land for a little while. And then after that I've got the muscle, so the muscle is compressing just a tiny bit, just to give it a little bit of glue. So if I take this off, there we go. Doesn't really look like muscle's doing much, so I could turn it up here. There we go. And now listen to when I turn muscle off and back on. I think flattening out is probably a terrible way to describe anything to do with music, but it just kind of flattens it out and makes it sound nice. So in a good way. All right, so another thing that I have going on here is I've got some more auxiliary sends that I'm really stoked about. So a few months ago, I was in Detroit for Detroit Modular in-store, and I hung out with some people, and I hung out with my friend Tommy. Tommy was always using the Moog filter pedal, which has a filter into drive. And if you put just a tiny bit of envelope on your filter and run all your drums through it, and then just put a little bit of drive on it, you can get this really cool fattened up sound. So what I decided to do was recreate that with the effects I had at my disposal, which are Protostar and Geiger Counter. So we were messing around a little bit earlier. I'm not sure exactly where this is at, but we're just gonna find out. So check this out. Here are my drums, right? And now I'm gonna turn on the Protostar. Right? You can hear, if I turn the resonance all the way up, you can really hear it back there. Maybe I'll turn everything up just a little bit. Make sure everything's going to it. There we go. Right, so now I've got this weird kind of line in the background with the filter. And that just really opens up when I turn on the distortion. It's really loud, so I'm gonna turn that down. Turn down the resonance. And then there's that line I was talking about. Now if I turn down the sample rate just a little bit, I can basically just make a whole track or transition just by using these effects, right? So I'm gonna go through here, add a little bit more from the other instruments. And then one thing I like doing is putting them all on pre-fader and just taking it out and just listening to this for a second. And then bring everything back in. I can let some of my dry through too. And that just gives us a little bit more distortion, clean distortion, and just that filtering in the background. Change up my wavetables a little bit, just to get some different kinds of sounds. That's super fun. Now, I'm gonna write a new line up on my René here, and I'm literally just gonna do that by turning the knobs and seeing what it sounds like. And I like to make sure that a couple of the knobs are at 0, maybe in a row too, so that way it sounds a little bit more like it's centered around a key. But I am using this in unquantized mode, which just gives you a fun, dissonant kind of sound. So here we go, let's listen to this. Take off the delay. There we go, so there's my line. Now I'm gonna run this through my filter stuff. more I turn it up, the more I'm opening up that Protostar filter. And this is kind of the more experimental side of my set, where I'm just kind of seeing what's going to happen with the Protostar. Again, I can flip this switch and get my other bass line in sync with the Synchrodyne here, playing the same line. Now let's run that through the distortion. Again, I'm going to do that one on post, all of them on post, and turn them all off. And let's make it just a little bit less gnarly over here. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So again, I'd probably set, you know, obviously I set this kind of stuff up in my headphones before I play. But we're just showing off what's in here. Bring that bass line in. Yeah, and just bringing this guy in pre-fader just for a little bit. Super fun. So the last piece to my puzzle is the Architect controlling the phase displacement oscillator, the PDO. So that's channel 9, I believe. Yeah, so that's channel 9 of my Metron here. Channel 10 is sending reset information, so resetting the Architect back. And so basically, I think Architect's probably gonna be not in this key. Obviously, I'd listen to it in my headphones if I weren't just listening to the master out. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna, again, just transition nice and slow and just get the bass out of there. I'll put some delay on this bad boy when it comes in, and then we'll just drop everything out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a different track or a different variation. So C is the one we're listening to, and then D, you can see I've got this different rhythm. So this is more of a ba-da, 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 ba-da kind of rhythm, and I've literally just got everyone as a reset. So we're going to go straight into bassline territory. So I'd bring this out, really milk it, make some crazy sounds. And then when I'm ready, just turn down the release and go into the next variation. And that's when I probably turn down my my delay there. And this is my new thing. And you can hear, since I've got the kick drum and all my drums actually pre-fader into the Geiger counter, you're still hearing that hi-hat, but just through the distortion. So if I switch up to just the hi-hat and bring that in, you'll now hear the actual hi-hat sound. And then we're getting a little bit of just like low note drone from the Geiger counter. So another thing I might do here is just take out my bass line and then turn up the decay on the creator and give it more Geiger counter. When we get to that nice sweet spot, pull it back. Ooh, nice. So now we've got this filter and the Geiger counter kind of creating something on the offbeat for us. I'm gonna bring in my other line. And obviously I can go through here with the save sequences on René. I can get some save stuff here, but for the most part, I'm just improvising. I'm just going through and just knowing my tools and knowing what I have to work with and just kind of knowing what I can do at one point because I'm using something while something else isn't being listened to, you know? And then just one more time, listen to that Synchrodyne. All right, so I'm gonna bring this into bassline territory. It's gonna sound ugly for a second. I apologize if that's not the exact same note I had, but it's pretty close, right? We'll check it against this one. Still sounds amazing doubling them up. If I think it's too low frequency heavy, I can just go to band pass here or high pass, which I've got this second oscillator in here. Maybe I'll take that out. Then maybe just one more for good sake. All right, so that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that it gives you a little bit of inspiration and that I didn't just fly around too much. But yeah, that's a little run through of my rig. The more that I play, the more I'm going to do these videos. So yeah, thank you. And yeah, we'll see you next time.